Year to date, Super Microcomputer has gone on an absolutely insane ride. The stock started the year by falling down to around $25 per share. However, over just a couple of weeks, the stock shot all the way up to over $60 per share, and that was immediately followed by a drop back down to retest the $30 level. However, over the course of the summer, we saw the stock work its way back up to $60 per share, but they announced their most recent earnings and the stock plummeted back down to about $40. But over the course of the last week, we have seen some positive movements as the stock has made a move up of around 10%. And today alone, Super Microcomputer stock moved up by over 4% after hours. This came after the company announced news that they were beginning shipments of their NVIDIA Blackwell Ultra systems. And honestly, this announcement could not come at a better time. We have seen so many good news articles coming out for these AI infrastructure plays. One of those ties back to Nebus. Nebus recently announced that they had signed a $17 billion deal with Microsoft, and that sent the stock from around $65 per share to well over $100 per share in a matter of hours. And overall, news like this is very critical for Super Microcomputer because as these other large tech players in the infrastructure space are rolling out these deals and showing this continued momentum in infrastructure for AI, then we will see a lot of that translate over to new orders for Super Microcomputer. One thing that they've been working on developing is their plug and play rack systems. These systems are going to be utilized by a large number of customers because Super Microcomputer can test these systems, make sure that they are working correctly, send them to the person purchasing them, and they can plug them in and start using them almost immediately. And as we see more of these deals inked between smaller companies and larger tech companies, I think that overall that is a great sign not only for Super Microcomputer, but also for the semiconductor industry in general, because it means that these big tech players, not only are they still building out their own infrastructure, but they need even more capacity. And to gain that capacity, they're looking to some of these smaller players. And what's crazy about all of this is companies like NVIDIA are still growing their top line numbers by 56% year over year. That is very impressive, especially considering the fact that they have been growing their revenue by hundreds of percent for over a year now, and they're finally starting to see it cool off. And then on top of all of that, a lot of these companies have not yet really opened up sales back into China. We've seen the issues between the US and China, and those seem to be starting to get resolved. And we should start seeing some of these sales actually hit in this next quarter, which could be a big catalyst for earnings. And we aren't only seeing these massive moves in stock prices from small companies. Oracle has a market cap of over $850 billion, and the stock moved up by over 40% just this past week on some recent news. And the news that sent Oracle's stock price flying was that the CEO now expects their cloud infrastructure revenue to reach $144 billion by 2030. To put that in perspective, they are only expected to put up $18 billion of revenue in this fiscal year. To break this down a little bit further, they're expecting $32 billion of revenue next year, 73 the following year, 114 billion the year after that, and then $144 billion by 2030. In my opinion, this feels quite ambitious. I think that the CEO is likely trying to get investors excited about the future for this company, and they're putting out numbers that may be a little out of reach for what they can realistically achieve. But obviously, the CEO is a lot more privy to the insider information and what is actually going on with the company. She announced that they had signed 4 multi-billion-dollar contracts with 3 different customers, and what this has created is additional backlog for the company. their backlog increased by 359% to $455 billion, dollars, with some of these significant contracts coming with major players in AI, like OpenAI, XAI, and even Meta. If these growth predictions are true for Oracle, then there's plenty of AI infrastructure that is going to need to be built out over the next few years, and that should be a big catalyst for supermicrocomputer. However, one call out is that Oracle has recently laid off some employees and has even discussed eliminating cash raises as well as bonuses for employees this year. But obviously, if the company is laying off people, it brings into question whether these projections over the next few years are truly accurate, because the company is saying one thing, however, they are doing something slightly different. And overall, if this does come true, then supermicrocomputer can benefit massively from this growth in the industry as a whole. Right now, they're still growing their top line at a fairly decent pace. However, bottom line numbers have not been looking very good over the last couple of quarters. In the last 2 quarters, they have put up 33 cents of GAAP EPS and 17 cents of GAAP EPS. This is far off of the 50 to 60 cents of GAAP EPS that they put up over the previous 5 quarters. And while fiscal year revenue has increased significantly year over year, their quarterly revenue growth has really fallen off dramatically. It's currently only sitting around 7.5% compared to just a few quarters ago when they were growing their top line by 180% year over year. So they need some of these deals to spur back not only bottom line growth, but also top line growth. And we talk about this a lot on the channel. Growth is what determines valuation. If a company is growing significantly, investors are willing to pay up for that growth. However, if growth starts to fall off, then valuation starts to contract. And right now, the forward P ratio on Supermicrocomputer is almost a 17. Just a few months ago, we were seeing the valuation sitting around a 10. However, with some forward EPS estimates starting to fall, we've seen this valuation metric start to creep up. And we can see this very clearly when looking at EPS estimates for 2026 and 2027. For 2026, as of 90 days ago, analysts were expecting Supermicrocomputer to put up $2.90 of EPS. That has since fallen all the way down to $2.61 of EPS. In 2027, we see a similar drop off. They were expecting $4.05 of EPS 90 days ago, and that has since fallen all the way down to $3.49 of EPS. And what this change in EPS estimates has done to the stock price over the last 90 days is it has driven down the stock by around 35%, while also driving up valuation. So full transparency, I do own shares of Supermicrocomputer. Right now, this is the YouTube portfolio and it's sitting at an all-time high. We now have approached a total value for the portfolio of almost $80,000 and we are up almost 38% year to date. And Supermicrocomputer is our second largest position in the portfolio, just under a value of $11,000. What I plan to do with this position is I was actually really hoping that United Health Group would stay beaten down for a longer period of time and we would see Supermicrocomputer creep back up to $50, maybe $55 per share. And I could sell out of most, if not all of this position and move it into some of these healthcare plays that I feel very confident in. I still might do that in the back half of this year. I still think that United Health Group is well undervalued. Oscar Health, I agree. I think the same thing, that it is undervalued. And one position that I've made a couple videos on and I've recently added to the portfolio is Novo Nordisk. If I sell out of Supermicrocomputer, I might move some of those funds into Novo. But of course, this is all just my opinion. Don't buy a company just because some random guy on YouTube talked about it. Make sure you are doing your own research and looking into companies that meet your risk tolerance as well as your time horizon. Thank you guys again for watching. I'd love to hear your opinion down below. Let me know, do you own Supermicro Computer and what is your price target for the end of 2026? Let me know down below, and while you're down there, drop a like on the video and subscribe for more videos like this one. And as always, have a wonderful rest of your day.